Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with a Spain news update, and Spain's strange housing market is making headlines today, but more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now, let's get into the news, and as I just mentioned, real estate is making headlines, and one Spanish newspaper, El Mundo, is talking about Spain's housing paradox, fears of another bubble in a country where it is increasingly difficult to own a home. The ghost of the last bubble dwells some 40 kilometers from the center of Madrid, and if you say Cesena out loud, a cold silence takes over the conversation. The same happens if you try Valdeluz or Villamayor de Calatrava, despite the fact that 13 years have passed since the real estate delirium that showered these lands with concrete skeletons. Now there are those who are beginning to look back at the fever, boom or explosion that COVID-19 has unleashed to buy a home, and more are wondering if we are not once again at the beginning of another housing bubble in Spain. Doubts, however, clash with the other part of the population who are finding it increasingly difficult to access housing to live in, that is. Young and not so young people whose economic situation is more complicated and who not only have no options to buy a house, but also face more and more barriers to renting in places where rents have skyrocketed. So there we go, yet another paradox in Spain, this time related to housing. Some people say that we're in the middle of another housing bubble, while others find it increasingly difficult to put a roof over their head. And all this in a country where those concrete skeletons, as they mentioned there, still litter the landscape. Now Prime Minister Sánchez, aka the Optimist, has spoken, and he's reassuring Spaniards that high electricity prices are nothing to be worried about. And as we can see here, Pedro Sánchez has pledged that by the end of 2021 we will have paid the same amount for electricity as in 2018. In an interview yesterday in the newspaper El País, he was asked various questions on the matter, and here are a couple. The government has recently given the impression of impotence in the face of the rise in electricity prices. Do you really have no margin to control this rise? Sanchez's answer: the government is taking social concerns on board, and we are working with a plan to reach a specific commitment, which is that by the end of 2021, Spaniards will look back and see that they have paid a similar amount in their electricity bill to what they paid in 2018. That is the objective and the commitment, that all citizens with an average consumption at the end of 2021 will pay a similar amount to what they paid in 2018, logically with the CPI discounted. And another question posed: and how are they going to do it? With what instruments? Well, said Sánchez, it is important to clarify the debate that one thing is the evolution of the wholesale price of the energy market, and another thing is the electricity bill. We pay the bill on a monthly basis. What does not make sense is to raise the debate on a daily basis, because we do not pay for electricity on a daily basis. What the government can do is to cushion the evolution of this wholesale price, first with structural reforms, with a firm commitment to renewable energies, not only because of climate change issues, but also because it is cheaper. Future electricity markets are already saying that Spain in 2022 and 2023, thanks to renewables, will have lower prices than France and Germany. In addition, we have reduced VAT from 21% to 10%. So high energy prices in Spain, nothing to be worried about, according to Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. We won't be paying more for electricity this year, according to his calculations, than in 2018, and next year and the year after, Spain will have cheaper energy than both France and Germany because of renewables. And with a bit of luck, salaries in Spain will also get to the levels of France and Germany. Now, the race is on here in Spain to get as many people vaccinated as possible, as soon as possible, but there are still some obstacles in the way. As we can see here, the final hurdles in the race for vaccination: denialists, the unmotivated, and the undecided. At this stage of the vaccination campaign, the adults who remain unimmunized in Spain could be classified into some very well-defined profiles. The first is that of the denialists, which is closely related to the anti-vaccine phenomenon. This is a group whose convictions are more emotionally than rationally based, so it is difficult for them to change their stance, although specialists indicate that the greatest efforts towards them should focus on disproving hoaxes and unfounded fears. The specialists believe that they will end up understanding the scientific discourse, the only valid one, which has made it possible for society to advance and improve the level of health of citizens, says the president of the Spanish Vaccinology Association, Amos García Rojas, who believes they will end up understanding it. Fortunately, despite their strong presence on social networks, in real life the influence of these groups is marginal, as defined by Jaime Jesus Perez, also from the Spanish Vaccinology Association. So there you have it, 3 groups left in Spain to be vaccinated: the denialists, the unmotivated, and the undecided. The first group there, people that have trouble understanding the science behind the COVID vaccines, or people that prefer to put their own personal freedoms before the freedoms of the rest of the community. And luckily, as we just saw, this group is a minority in Spain, unlike some other countries. Then we've got the unmotivated, people that are just too lazy to get out and get vaccinated. And then we have the undecided, people that still can't work out which is worse, the vaccine or the virus. And exactly how does the government plan to vaccinate these groups? Well, Spain's regions will go after the unvaccinated using mobile buses, walk-in points, and TikTok. There is no longer any excuse. The summer holidays are over and you don't have to wait more than 4 weeks to receive the vaccine after infection. Today in Spain, anyone who is not immunised is because they either do not want to be or have not yet reached the age of 12, the minimum age for vaccination against COVID-19. To attract the latecomers to the campaign, the autonomous communities are implementing all kinds of initiatives and facilities, from itinerant buses, known as Baku Wawas in the Canary Islands, to walk-in points that are spread throughout the country, even open 24 hours a day. So vaccine buses circulating around the cities, various vaccine points where previous appointment is not necessary, and TikTok influencers trying to convince people that vaccination is the key. Now let's take a look at a summary of the current health situation in Spain. We can see that the accumulated incidence rate for the last 14 days is now down to 198. There are still 7,206 COVID patients hospitalised around the country, and there are 1,685 COVID patients in ICU. And when it comes to Spain's vaccination campaign, we can see that 71.53% of the population have completed vaccination, and 77.34% have received at least one COVID-19 dose. Now, Murcia's Mar Menor is still making headlines after the recent ecological disaster, and apparently fishermen in the area are having trouble convincing people that the fish from that sea are okay to eat. As we can see here, consumers show their distrust when buying fish from the Mar Menor. The sudden death of thousands of fish in the Mar Menor in Murcia, caused by a lack of oxygen, presumably caused by agricultural fertilizer residues and high temperatures, has caused many consumers to be wary of buying fish from the area. Faced with this scenario, which has provoked protests from residents, fishermen in the area insist that the product that goes on sale passes the necessary controls, so there is nothing to fear. They add, moreover, that the fish that died in the Mar Menor were not for human consumption, and that those that are perfectly healthy. So consumers understandably worried about buying and eating fish from the Mar Menor. But local fishermen assuring that there is nothing to be worried about, which is logical, considering that their livelihoods are at stake. So anybody in that part of Spain, let us know. Are you okay with eating fish from the Mar Menor? Let us know in the comment section. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Ray: no problem with beer supply here in London. Some of the big chains have supply problems getting beer for the price they want to pay. Yeah, Ray, thanks for the comment, and to be honest, I'm not sure what's going on there in the UK when it comes to shortages. Somebody in the comment section the other day said that beer was in short supply. Other people replied saying that that was not the case, and you there in London saying that there are no problems getting a pint of your favourite lager at your local. I saw a video on YouTube the other day saying that there was a supply shortage for certain goods, not only in the UK but in other countries as well, apparently. And I've also read articles in recent times about Nando's running out of chicken and McDonald's running out of milkshakes. So obviously there's a problem there somewhere, especially if you can't get your hands on some of that delicious Portuguese-style barbecue chicken. One here from Brian: hi Stuart, I thought with wind turbines, and there are plenty in Spain, the turbines were built to provide cleaner, cheaper electricity prices, but that does not seem to be the case. Solar panels are a good idea, but take many years to see any return with the cost of having them installed for the average property. I may be wrong, but would be interesting if anyone recently has had them installed. Yeah, Brian, thanks for the comment, and you're right, there are plenty of wind turbines scattered all over the Spanish landscape, and the idea is to take advantage of this type of energy. We saw earlier in the video how Prime Minister Sánchez said that in 2022 and 2023, Spaniards are going to pay less than Germans and French for their energy, and that is because of the influence of renewables here in Spain. And when it comes to solar panels, I've seen mixed opinions on them. Some people saying that they're very, very good, that their electricity bills have been brought down by having solar panels on the roof, and other people saying something similar to what you mentioned in your comment, that it takes a long time to see the return. So let's open the debate up again. If you're in Spain and have solar panels on the roof, Let us know some of the pros and cons in the comment section below. One here from Ivan: Sunshine Tax was a very stupid movement, but current tariffs and the idea of creating another company, public this time, is not so bright either. It will take years and people in Spain need a solution now. Ivan, thanks for the comment, and you're right, the Sunshine Tax was a very stupid policy here in Spain, and it most likely set us back a few years when it comes to renewable energy. And the pressure that these companies exert on government here is huge. In fact, it is probably one of the strongest lobby groups in this country, and many a former politician has found a comfy chair in one of these companies and a table in the executive canteen. But I'm sure this is not unique to Spain, and it's just another way that big business manipulates the system. One here from Property Buyer Spain: Hi Stuart, you can't do much about barking dogs here in Spain. The police are not interested unless the dog or dogs are barking after midnight. I know because we have one behind us and I've looked into this. Kind regards, Andrew. Yeah, Andrew, thanks for the comment and thanks for telling us your experience with the problem of incessantly barking dogs here in Spain. As you can probably hear, it's not a problem for me today, but yesterday it was an absolute nightmare. And thanks for telling us that there is nothing you can do unless they are barking in the middle of the night. I saw someone reply to a comment about this the other day, saying that it's not the dog's fault that they bark, it's the owner's fault. And yes, that is true. It's the same when you go out into the street and you see dog excrement all over the place. It's not the dog's fault, it is the owner's fault, of course. I often remind dog owners here of their duty to pick up their dog's poo, and more often than not they take offence. So that, unfortunately, is the profile of a lot of dog owners here in Spain. Not the majority, but a fairly large minority. One here from Derek: What the hell is going on in Oz, especially New South Wales? Did you hear about the animal rescue centre that shot the dogs and some pups to stop helpers coming in for fear of spreading the virus? Yeah, Derek, thanks for the comment, and unfortunately I did hear about those dogs being shot. Absolutely ridiculous. And it does seem that Australia has a bit of a COVID dilemma at the moment. In fact, in some places, they're at the crossroads. New South Wales, for example, has bad COVID data, seems to be getting worse on a daily basis, and some parts of Victoria are also in lockdown, for example, Melbourne. But if you go to some other parts of the country, for example, South Australia and Western Australia, they are virtually COVID-free. The problem states, like New South Wales, are saying that they need to abandon their COVID-0 policy and learn to live with the virus. And Western Australia's policy is to keep the borders closed until 90% of the population is fully vaccinated. And at the rate of current vaccination there, it seems like it's going to be a while before those borders open again. So it seems that Australia is turning into a two-tiered country at the moment. States that have the virus have realised that they can't get rid of it, and other states that don't have the virus and want to keep it out. So as I said, a bit of a dilemma down there for politicians, but I hope they get it sorted out soon, because I'd like to be able to visit my family in the near future. One here from Steve: Hello Stuart, love your reports, watch just about every one. My wife and I are just starting to think about travelling to Spain. The English summer has been poor. We will be travelling down to a small town in the southeast near Mojácar. Have you been there? My Spanish is improving. We are still waiting for your Spanish lessons. Yes, Steve, thanks for the comment, and sorry to see that the English summer has been so poor. It's been an absolute cracker here if you like hot and dry weather. And that part of Spain that you mentioned in the comment, Mojácar, down there in Almeria, I have been there many years ago. I have a friend that has a house down there in Almeria. We stayed there for a few days and we visited the town of Mojácar. I know that there's a big English-speaking community down in that part of Spain, so a big shout out to everyone down there in Almeria. And when it comes to the Spanish lessons that I was talking about last year, unfortunately they were put on the back burner. I haven't been able to bring them forward, but I'll look into it and see if I can get them up and running sometime soon. Finally, one here from Bill: Sigh, one of the reasons I dream of moving to Spain is that the government here in the United States can be so stupid. I guess that is one plague you can never escape. Yeah, Bill, thanks for the comment, and unfortunately bad government is one plague that we cannot escape. It doesn't matter where you are, whether it's here in Spain, the United States, Australia, there are bad politics and bad politicians everywhere, unfortunately. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you did not. I'll see you on the next one. Hasta luego.